Good morning and welcome to today's Celsius Talk, Bridging the Funding Gap, Resources for Sustainable Cities. It is brought to you by the Celsius Initiative. It is a demand-driven collaboration hub. We work with continuous knowledge sharing for cities by cities through a monthly newsletter, webinars such as this, workshops, as well as the Celsius Toolbox, where you will find background information on almost any technology you will need on heating and cooling solutions. We provide hands-on support for cities through our forerunner groups. We help influence European policy in collaboration with our partner, European Power, to help promote sustainable solutions in cities. And we support innovation, replication, and scaling of pilots and demonstrators because there's no need to reinvent the wheel. Welcome to this webinar, and I would like to give the floor to Astrid, the moderator for today.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. So my name is Astrid Burhey. I'm the Research, Innovation and Transportation Advisor at the Region Västra Brussels office. And I'm very happy to be here today. It's a very important talks we were going to have today. And I know I've seen the list. I know there's a lot of cities with ambitious climate goals and projects that are connected today. So this seminar is aiming to helping you to achieve your goals by discussing the many different European funding and support mechanisms that can help cities to achieve these goals. And maybe particularly now with the Green Deal. So this is very important. Because there is one important thing to say, and that is that those fundings are not always being used in full. There is a gap between the resources available and the organizations they are meant for. And I mean, the upside of this is, of course, that it means that there are still funds available for you and your project and your goals, which is great. But we hope today, during this webinar, that we will try to reduce the gap between resources and cities by explaining some of the resources available and to encourage you, the cities, to apply for them. We will show you where and how and when to apply and give you examples of viable projects for these types of supports. And we're going to look into especially the Horizon Europe's mission, Climate Neutral Cities, which is a new instrument. We will look at the European Innovation Fund, the Green Deal calls, and also the Smart Cities Marketplace Matchmaking program. And we have very interesting speakers with us today. First of all, it's Alan Larsson, who is the Vice Chair of the Horizon Europe Smart Cities Mission. We have Elko Krutzinger, who is the matchmaking specialist for the Smart Cities Marketplace. Sebastian Marx, he's EU advocacy and project development consultant. And then I have to switch here. And then Patrick Klintblom, who is senior researcher at RISE, which is the Research Institute of Sweden. And then last but not least, Gabriele Pesce, who is project officer at Euroheat and Power. So let's continue, and then I'll give over to you, Alan, please.
Thank you. So, good morning, and great pleasure to be here. I'm going to present to you the EU Mission Board on Climate Neutral City. You look at the picture here, 15 people have been working together for a year, and we have delivered our final report in the beginning of October. And we propose 100 climate neutral cities by 2030, by and for citizens. That is a title, that is a mission. And our chair, Hanna Gronkiewicz, who is in the middle picture, she has said, this is the mission of our time. So let's look at what the mission can be. So next, please. That's a strong vision, a task never done before, a project that requires big resources, well-coordinated organizations to be implemented, from research and innovation to industrial development, investment to citizen development. And the mission of climate neutral cities is more than man on the moon, which is the traditional view of a mission. So climate city mission is the challenging mission of our generation. That's it. So what does that mean? Let's take a look at the next. First of all, why cities? The reason is very simple. Cities cover about 3% of the land on Earth, yet they produce about 72% of all global greenhouse gas emissions. So on top of that, cities are growing fast in Europe. We expect that almost 85% of Europeans will be living in cities by 2050. Therefore, the climate emergency must be tackled by cities and by citizens. So, how to do it? Next, please. So here are 4 points in our proposal to the Commission on the mission. First, a new model for city governments. Second, by and for citizens. Third, a new way to work with the citizen, a new way of funding climate action. Let me make a few comments to each of these. A new model of city governments. With that, we mean that we have to break up from the silo-based organizations that we normally have in cities and form a new organization, climate city governance, that can keep together all different departments of a city towards the common goal of climate transition. And that means also that in the background, national agencies and European Commission has to do the same. We have to bring together in a more holistic way the way we are working. Second, by and for citizens. So we are not talking about citizens only as political actors, but also economic actors. We are consumers, producers, we are owners of houses, buildings, or transport means. And all through these buildings and cars, we have an impact on the climate, and we can change that in the right way. So therefore, by and for citizens as political and economic actors. The third is a new way to work with cities. And we call it a climate city contract. That is a contract between the Commission and the mayor of a city. This is on the highest political level of the city, the mayor. And it's a contract negotiated between the two sides about commitments of the city to become climate neutral by 2030, and commitments by the Commission to support that and to bring together different financial resources and other resources. And the fourth is a new way of funding climate action, the whole financial value chain. So it's not only resources for research and innovation, it's for climate, it's for transport, it's for energy, it is for regional development and so on. So we are trying to bring together all these resources and create a one-stop shop for cities to discuss that with the Commission. Now, next, please. How to select cities? That will be important questions. So commitment, capacity, and citizen involvement will be the main criteria. And we foresee that member states will be represented by at least 3 cities entering the co-creation of climate city contract phase. Now from the European to Swedish, next please. So from EU Mission Board to Sweden's Mission Board, Viable Cities. Sweden is a forerunner to EU Climate City Mission. We had a call in 2018 for cities to become leaders in climate transition. And we have selected 9 cities, local authorities. We have written MOUs, members of understandings, with the mayors in April. We will sign climate contracts in December. So this will be a test of the whole EU mission concept. Next, please. Here is a picture from our ceremony in April. 9 mayors, and they committed at that time to prepare climate city contracts. And we are now in the final stage of negotiations, and that will be finalized in December. Start to operate in January next year. So we'll be 2 years before the EU Commission can start its operations. Next, please. Here is a very simple explanation on what we call Climate Contract 2030. So that Climate City Contract. At the top, you have the climate cities. They commit themselves to goals, governance, citizen involvement, climate investment plans, and so on. On the national level, on the bottom, there are 3 boxes: policy and better regulation, more innovation, coordinating funding and financing. So that is a national support that we bring into the Climate City Contract. So these will then be signed by the mayors and by the government in December. So that was the whole story in a very short presentation. If you have questions, please let me know and I will try to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Yes, I got so excited, so I forgot to tell you most important thing is that we really want you to engage during the whole seminar. So please ask questions during or and after each intervention, and then we will also have a final discussion, broader discussions in that. But if you have questions directly to Alan, please ask them in the question and answer chat on the bottom. I will ask you one question, Alan. Did you discuss in your expert group about how much money you would wish or hope for that each of these 100 cities that will be selected would receive together with different grants? Did you have any funding discussions about numbers?
We have funding discussions, and we have made a study on what is needed to bring a city from business as usual to climate neutrality by 2030. And that is based on 100 cities with an average of 100,000 people. And the conclusion is that there's a need for around 100 billion euros to add to the present investment planning for cities. And half of that is on building, energy, a quarter is on transport, and a quarter for the rest. Then there is also a study or further conclusions on what it means in terms of reduction of costs. And the reduction of energy costs is almost as big as the extra investment costs. But on the top of that, there is about 25 billion euro return on lower health cost, because that will have an impact on air. And as we know that 700 people are dying every year due to health problems or due to air pollution, there is a substantial benefit from doing this. So this is the figures, general figures on investment needed. Then there is a question of how much will be paid by European Union, by national governments and so on. But the main part of it will be based on market funding from banks and from real developers and so on. But on the top, there will be a need for public funding.
And then I have a question from Tomislav Novosel. Thank you for the very interesting presentation. How can a city join the Climate City mission? What support needs to be brought in, and should the contracts be made with only the city or a wider consortium? For example, national support plus city plus local support agencies. What's your view?
The climate contract will be signed by the mayor on behalf of the whole city, but not only the city in terms of public administration. The mayor should also include business, academia, and civil societies, because they can act in many different ways. You can't solve climate or get climate transition only through the public administration. It has to include business, academia, and civil society. So, but the only person in the city that can bring all these actors together is the mayor. Therefore, we address the mayor and we expect the mayor to sign.
Okay, thank you, Alan. I think that maybe we should continue if there is no more written question. So then we take the next speaker, and I welcome you, Elko Krutzinger. I hope I pronounce your name correctly. Welcome. Oh, I see that. So, do you hear me now, Elko?
Right, so the sound is
Perfect.
back, so just in
Great.
time. That's great. So I guess I just have to introduce myself here. My name is Ilko Kruisinga, and I represent the Smart Cities marketplace. And if everything is all right, I'm sharing my screen. And I'm going to speak about the Smart Cities Marketplace initiative. So what it is, what to expect from it, because I think it's a really good resource for cities who want to engage with fellow smart cities, but also with, particularly in our case, with private finance providers, because that's what we're all about. So I'm going to speak briefly around what to expect from it and what we have achieved so far as a Smart Cities Marketplace. It is an initiative from the European Commission itself. And what we try to do is to develop the market for smart cities solutions through a set of interventions, which I will speak briefly about in the next few minutes. So first of all, we have a set of good practices available to any city in Europe and even beyond. So it is a big repository of solutions being developed either with European funding or without European funding. So we sit on a very good set of basically both qualitative as well as quantitative information on smart city solutions across three, you could call it sectors, and Alan was already alluding to it. So we have quite a few solutions in the area of energy efficiency, both in a new built environment as well as in refurbished buildings. We have solutions in the area of clean mobility for sure. And we have a set of solutions in the area, or rather the broad area of ICT and Internet of Things type of solutions. So we sit on a big database, you could say. And then secondly, what we offer to cities across Europe is let's say a community of professionals who are working together in so-called hot topic working groups, and the official titles are action clusters and initiatives. We have 20 of those groups to date, and I will briefly touch upon those, because in those groups you might find fellow partners to develop a project together. And then thirdly, and I think that the most important part for this session is that what we do is we help cities to match their project ideas with a so-called investor network. So we have a number of investors who are really keen to receive project proposals for investment or co-investment through their various funds. So we'll briefly touch upon that as well. So what we do is we have this mantra called Explore, Shape, Deal. So the Explore part of the marketplace is indeed this database of smart city solutions, both quantitative as well as qualitative information. What works, what doesn't work so well, and what type of performance can you achieve with the various technologies that you can have under the label of smart and climate neutrality. And then secondly, again, we have something that's called Shape, help shape projects together in pan-European working groups. And also under that, we have regular virtual workshops and webinars. And then we have the deal part. So we have a continuous open call for proposals. So at any point in time, you can submit a project proposal to us, and me as a matchmaker, together with my fellow matchmakers, will review those proposals and try to match them with the requirements of any of our investors in our investor network. And also we provide guidance on how to create, that's what we call bankable investment proposals. So we're not really providing, let's say, grants or subsidies. Now we're really trying to match you with private finance. And we have a website which actually is under development, and we will launch a new website quite soon, hopefully even this week on Thursday. Okay, so On the explore and shape part, we have these action clusters and initiatives. This is this big community of actually several thousands of people across Europe who are working together on a number of themes. And here you have a snapshot of those action clusters and initiatives. And it's not my purpose to explain all of those. My purpose is to give you the idea that this is a very broad group of expertise areas, and all together cover, I think, the main topics that are really important for developing a smart/climate neutral city. So on the top right-hand side, you will find experts working together on anything related to citizen engagement. We have experts working together, bottom left, into the area of sustainable mobility. Bottom right, we have various groups working on the built environment, varying from the concept of positive energy blocks, PEBs. Particularly interesting for Celsius, I suppose, is the networks on heating and cooling. Oh, sorry, the network on heating and cooling networks, I should say. And we have a group on deep retrofitting, and then also on the top left, we have a cross-cutting group working on how to finance and create sustainable finance for smart city business models. So we have a group working on business models and finance as well. So quite broad, and any of these groups is several hundreds of people working together, all volunteers. But what they try to do is to bring new resources to the table of European smart cities, but also to develop project ideas together. And this all comes under the label of what we call SHAPE. So this is just a brief snapshot of the types of results that these action clusters actually achieve. So on the far right of this slide, you can see quite a hefty document. Actually, it's several hundred pages. It's a smart city guidance package, and I would invite you to look that one up if you want to develop a, let's say, integrated, holistic smart city program within your own jurisdiction. That guidance package will give you, let's say, almost like a roadmap of how to actually do that. And then something completely different in the middle. It's actually something that is it's been taking it will be taking place quite shortly. It's an online workshop on how information from space, from satellites, can be used to develop a smart city program as well. So something completely different. And even on the far left here, urban air mobility, quite advanced group working on the use of, for instance, unmanned aerial vehicles to solve some of the transportation issues in a city as well. So quite broad is there as well. Okay, then thirdly, so first of all, we had this explore part of the smart cities marketplace, this big database of qualitative and quantitative information. Then we had the shape part, which is actually the community of several hundreds, even thousands of professionals working on hot topic city land, and anybody can engage with those groups. So I would invite you to find a group of your liking that fits your ambitions and your ideas. And then thirdly, we have the matchmaking services, and that's something that I'm partly responsible for as well. So we'll just touch upon that a bit longer if you want. So again, we have this continuous call for projects, and we call those a call for project concept notes. So really what we do is we have a very simple form that you have to fill in, and that will then help us to look at those forms and to see, okay, this project idea, which of our investors would be interested in that? And if we, let's say, judge positively, we will bring you in contact with such an investor as well. So I really invite you to have a look at that project concept note. It's available through the website. The call is always open. I must say that we have we have had face-to-face events and also virtual face-to-face events over the year, this year, and actually we will have a virtual face-to-face event the 4th and 5th of November. That's the next one. So then you can actually have like a one-to-one speed dating meeting with an investor, should you have passed the threshold of quality of your project concept. So what we do actually is we have this project maturity level framework, the PML framework. What we try to do is to look at your project concept node and then judge where you are with your project concept node. And what you need to understand is, I won't go into all of the detail here, that given the nature of our investor network, they're quite mature investors, infrastructure type investors. They would be really looking into the higher level of project maturity level, so level 4 and up. What we try to do is to grow an investor network towards investors who have, more of a higher risk appetite and who would be interested in lower level of PMLs as well. So the investor network is not a fixed entity; it's a growing group of investors, and it's one of my tasks to help grow that investor network. But at this point in time, our investors are now really looking at PML 4, 5, 6 level type of project proposals. Now, this is a brief overview of who we have in our investor network. It is, and I think also it resonates with what Ellen was saying. These investors are skewed towards the energy efficiency world. Some of them are also interested in mobility, less so in ICT type of projects. But it also reflects where the need is actually, where the project needs are. So we have quite large, established investors such as Arcus and Arcus Infrastructure Group, Amber Infrastructure Group. We have Jewel Assets, Prime Invest Capital Partners on the right-hand side, who are interested in for instance, in telecommunication networks as well, smart lampposts and those types of initiatives. And we have the Smart City Infrastructure Fund on the bottom middle, I should say. So these are our investors, and they're really looking forward to your project concept notes as well. With one caveat, so these people don't have a lot of time to review things, so we're looking for quality here rather than quantity.
I'm sorry to speed you up a bit, Ilko, but
yes, sure. I'm coming to a close. Thank you for that. I'm coming to a close just now. What we have found is that we are receiving quite a few of project concept notes, but the maturity level of those concept notes is I think there's room for improvement. So what we're trying to do now is we are planning a masterclass for smart city project developers, a 2-day masterclass to help you basically advance your project concept note, and then towards the end of the masterclass, be able to submit a project concept note to an investor. So if you're interested, come to our website, contact me, and I'll tell you a bit more about what that actually entails. We have a series of webinars also focused basically on building capacity to create better investable project proposals. And we have a website as well. We have this project concept notes, and just I want to finish up with where we are today. So in 2020, we have received project concept notes asking for 300+ million euros, and from that set, we have been able to match just under 100 million euros with project investors. So our funnel is actually suggests a 3-to-1 ratio here as well. We're trying to be more and more successful, and the spread of projects you can see there all across the various sectors I just mentioned. So come to us if you have a project concept note. We will try to match it with private investment professionals. And that's it from me. And here are my contact details if you want to engage. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ilko. You have received some questions. I will read them for you, but there is one who would like to have to know the website where one can download the Smart City Guide. So I'm asking you to answer that one in written, please.
Yeah. Okay. So what I could do is to post the link in the chat.
Perfect.
Okay.
So then you can all say it. Great. And then I'll take a question here. Is the project call limited to hardware investments, or could it also include model concepts to aggregate energy efficient investments?
Definitely, it could be organizational concepts, definitely as well. Yeah, actually, investment. If you try to set up an ESCO company, for instance, that would be interesting. I'm not saying you will be successful per se, but it's definitely not out of the equation. It's not only hard infrastructure or hardware. Definitely no.
And then there's another very
Well,
interesting question. I think.
investors are interested in investing in a sustainable business model. So maybe that's the answer.
That's a good answer. And then we have one question about, for district heating and cooling investments, you usually look at high risk and capital intensive investments with a long payback time, 20 years or more, not very attractive for private investment. How can you support the Celsius cities for this issue?
I think it's absolutely the case that private investors are yes, definitely if it's a long-term investment, they are sort of risk averse, definitely. So, but what I'm hearing from my investors is that they really are looking forward to engage in public-private partnerships to at least have some of the de-risking element for them in there as well. So looking at sort of co-funding money model is definitely interesting for our private investors. But going in it alone as a private investor, that is indeed in many cases difficult. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we should continue. Thank you, Akhil. We'll come back after the other interventions. And then our next speaker is Sebastian Marx. Sebastian, please. There you are. Welcome.
So I hope it's working now. Can you hear and see me?
Yes, clearly.
Okay, very good. So thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this talk. It's especially interesting for me since I have a background in the city administration. I used to work for the city of Gothenburg. I'm now today an independent consultant, mainly in the fields of energy, environment, transport, and climate projects. And I'm invited to talk to you about the EU Innovation Fund, which is a fund that has been launched and where we now have the first call of proposals open. It's actually closing in 2 weeks. And I want to present very briefly the principles of it, what does it entail, what can it finance, and then mainly have probably a couple of questions or discussions where we can link it to cities. The European Innovation Fund has the objective of driving low carbon technologies to market. It supports projects that demonstrate highly innovative processes, products, or solutions that contribute to the 2050 goals of fossil-free Europe. It will invest up to 10 billion euros up till 2030. And the main key here is to avoid greenhouse gas emissions. The fund itself is not aimed directly at cities, so it's not like the Urban Innovation Program of DG Regio, which finances cities. This is really financing solutions. Cities can be eligible, but you have to be part of the implementation of the project. The Commission has, with this fund, decided to target 4 main areas. And it's the production and use of renewable energy. It's carbon capture, use and storage. It's energy intensive industries and energy storage. So these are the 4 areas where your project has to deliver on one of the areas, of course. So if you have an idea from a city to, for instance, demonstrate and test an innovative energy storage model together with your utility company, this could be absolutely eligible. The Innovation Fund invests in high-risk projects, and it aims to fill the gap between a research project, which would be typically financed by Horizon Europe in the future, and the real market instruments that the EIB are providing, like Invest Europe. So Innovation Fund is there to take a project which has already been proven to some extent, to do a large-scale demonstration and to be able to really roll out and replicate this solution on the market. This is where the Innovation Fund kicks in. They are separating it into two different kind of calls, the so-called large-scale projects and the small-scale projects. And what we have open now is the first call of proposals for large-scale projects, which closes on the 29th of October. And it will be followed by yearly calls. Next call probably in September 2021. The large-scale projects are defined as projects which have a capital expenditure of over 7.5 million euros. There is no upper limit, except for the upper limit that there is the 10 billion euros over the 10 years period, meaning 1 billion per year to be financing projects. The Commission are covering 60% of the relevant costs, and the relevant costs are defined for the different sectors. Main principle is that the relevant cost is the additional cost that an innovative solutions would cost you more than a conventional solution. And what they are trying to do here is really to push new innovations where today it might be difficult to find the financing for it. So 60% of the relevant cost can be carried in the large-scale projects. There will be also small-scale projects calls. The first one is planned to open in December. They have a capital expenditure maximum of 7.5 million. There will be some simplifications in the methodology. And the relevant costs for the small-scale projects are equal to the actual capital expenditure. So here the relevant costs are also a bit easier to calculate. So for the large-scale projects, which are open right now, I just want to give you a brief look into it. It's a two-stage application. So you go in with one stage now, and the next one will come in next year. Beneficiaries can be a single applicant or a consortia. So it could be a utility and a city, or a utility, city and a research company, or even from different countries, and that go together to demonstrate the solutions. You see that the timelines for the projects are quite long in the application stage. So we go in with an application in first stage, 29th of October. You get invited to the second stage early next year, and you will have the evaluation and results at the end of next year. So there are 5 criteria that they are evaluating the projects on. It's the greenhouse gas emission avoidance, it's the degree of innovation, the project maturity, the scalability of the project, and the cost efficiency. They have divided this up, so in the stage 1, you will be measured on the greenhouse gas emission avoidance. So you will have to demonstrate how much CO2 is avoided by implementing your project. And there are quite detailed and quite complex calculation methods provided for describing your greenhouse gas emission avoidance. You have to show the degree of innovation of the product. So they will only finance innovative projects that they call our breakthrough technologies, or that they go beyond state of the art today. So there has to be something new and innovative, either in the technology or in the system of usage that you create with your project. And then they look at the project maturity. So you need to have a feasibility study, you need to have a project implementation plan, and you need to have a business plan. And based on the level of maturity of these documents, you will either be invited to stage 2, or you will be invited to what they call a project development assistance. I will briefly come back to that, or you will not be invited to go on. The main criteria here are that you have to demonstrate that the project is financially viable within 4 years of the project's start, and that you have a clear idea on how much greenhouse gas emissions you will avoid. In the stage 2, they will look at the market potential for it. They will look at your plans for replication. They will look how you aim to share knowledge from your project. And they will look at the cost efficiency ratio. So how much CO2 will be avoided for how much euro. That is the main criteria for stage 2. I just briefly want to give you a couple of pointers, what is important if you want to go into the stage and make stage 1 working. And that is, of course, to ensure that you have met the minimum requirements under the greenhouse gas emission calculations. Sorry. You need to have a so-called 50% point markers on the project maturity criteria. And well, this is the project development assistance, so sorry. So if you are not being considered as being mature enough on the business plan, but that your greenhouse gas emission avoidance is looking very well, and that you have at least 50% of the scores needed for the technical project descriptions, you could be considered for a project development assistance. And this is assistance provided by the European Investment Bank. And mainly it will be consultancy services to help to create a business case and a business model that works for your project. If you want to go further and really reach the first stage, there are some pointers that you need to think about. You, of course, need to check all your eligibility criteria, the project size, that it falls within the scope of the innovation fund, that the legal criteria are fitting. But what you need to do is to look at the competition, because the competition will be extremely fierce on this, since it is quite an interesting fund to engage with. So you would have to try to make an analysis how many projects are likely to enter into your sector, because you are compared within your sector. You have to make an estimation what kind of greenhouse gas emissions your competitors will be able to save. And in that sense, also try to make a good calculation of the cost efficiency ratio, because this will be a very, very crucial part of the evaluation. You will have to calculate the greenhouse gas emission avoidance over 10 years, and you have to do it absolute and relative. You have to support the calculation with detailed calculations and explanations of your assumptions. You have to describe the project as an innovative project. You have to be very clear in the arguments how this technology, the product or the solution is beyond state of the art. And you have to demonstrate that you have the chance of reaching financial close within 4 years, meaning that you will get only 40% of the money from the commission until you have reached the financial close, until you have a final financial decision for the project. And then you can be eligible for the 60% that is resting from the grant. You need to have a very clear business plan, and you need to ensure high quality of all documents that you enter. So it is a challenge to go into this fund. Now you will not go in the first call anymore. So you will have the chance to see what kind of projects have gone in and been entered in the different sectors, and compare yourself to them for the next call. So I think it is worthwhile to look at the projects that are being entered now and compare to your own ideas. And finally, it could be a very good idea if you have a project which is mature enough for the Innovation Fund. You might want to link up with the Smart Cities marketplace that you just heard about, because there could be some overlaps and some possibilities of also getting private financing on board, which would also increase the chances of getting the Innovation Fund on board. I think I'll leave it like that and rather take some questions.
Thank you, Sebastian. And you were actually answering my first question in the end, if you could link it with other sources of financing. So thank you for that clarification. I will read a question we have received, and it says, is there really such a difference between an EIT-SCC project and a Horizon 2020 Horizon Europe Innovation Action?
There is not a huge difference. There is a difference in terms of they want to see a little bit higher degree of maturity here than in an innovation action. And of course, the funding streams are different. You will, first of all, you get lump sums. So you get, if you get 60% of the relevant cost, 40% of the money that you get if you manage to close the financials of the project. So they are taking a risk here. They give you 40% of the money, assuming that you will reach an investment decision. And this money is being paid out. It's not being paid. You don't have to pay back if you don't manage to reach the project, or if the project then fails later on. This money is paid out. And then you have the 60% of the grant that will be dispersed if you reach the greenhouse gas emission avoidance that you promise. If you don't, then you will have to pay back some money there. So it is a very different funding structure than innovation action.
Okay, and then one question. I mean, you, as you said, you have long experiences both from city councils and about EU funding instruments. In this new program period, do you think there are more and better opportunities for cities than before, or is it just different?
I think there will be more, and there should be more. And as we heard Alan this morning with the city mission, and of course the funding needs that are being identified. Of course, not all the funding will come from the EU, but the EU needs to support this cities mission that they are now engaging with. So I do think that funding streams will increase towards cities. And of course, the Innovation Action Fund, Innovation Fund here, it's not aimed at cities as such. But of course, if you are a city with a utility and the utility is doing a project in your city, you can still use this as a project and a financing for reaching your own local climate goals. So I think there will be possibilities. I do think it is a key for engaging across sectors, and also not only looking at the city as such, but also working together with business and academia. Also, like Alan said this morning, if you really want to reach these goals, you need, and if you want to make a climate contract, you need to engage together. And you will also have to look at these kind of projects in a joint way.
Take one last question as well as you received. And it reads, it seems very risky for the taxpayer to give 40% of a multi-million euro grant upon reaching of financial close without any guarantee that the project will go further. Where's the cost control?
I lost you, Astrid. I don't know if you hear me, but I see the question.
Good.
So the
Can you hear me? Or am I the one who's out?
No, I believe his screen is
It's Sebastian
frozen.
who, okay.
Yes.
So we'll leave this question to later, and then we'll continue. And I think that it's Patrick Klintblom's turn. Patrick, please. Are you with us, Patrick?
I don't see him. One moment.
Otherwise, maybe we should switch the order.
Now I think.
Oh, perfect. Great.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Welcome back, Patrick.
Thanks. I was there all along.
Okay.
You couldn't hear me, so yeah.
Okay. And now we can see you, so great. Welcome.
Great. Yes, thanks. So I will talk about the European Green Deal. So I have some problems with my internet, so you will help me to switch slides. So we can start with the first one. So my name is Patrick Lindbom. I'm a project manager for the Green Deal within RISE, so Research Institutes of Sweden. We can take the next. Shortly about myself, I'm a senior researcher within the area of sustainable mobility. I'm also acting focus area manager for fossil-free transport within RISE. I'm doing work within a research and innovation program called Triple F. It's a program that aims at having a fossil-free goods transport system. So I'm a research director for technology. I'm sharing one of the technology platforms linked to the European Commission. So that is the European Technology Innovation Platform for Bioenergy that handles transportation fuels and also heat and power from biomass resources. And I'm also coordinating a EU project called Set for Bio, which is supporting the implementation of the EU Strategic Energy Technology Plan that is under the Energy Union, let's say, umbrella that we have in order to create our, let's say, European Union with the energy resilience. Okay, next slide, please. I will talk today about the Green Deal, and firstly, I will mention shortly, we have a project internally within RISE that we call the Green Deal for Sweden. Its main aim is to take a proactive role in also realizing the Green Deal. That is then we are analyzing the opportunities and challenges for us at RISE and also for our customers then. So there's a lot of communication, for example, from the European Commission, so that we need to look into and also in detail review what is the possibilities. And also the overall aim is to increase the activities and increase European cooperation in the areas of the Green Deal. So I think it's a lot of opportunities for increased collaboration. Next slide, please. The Green Deal then, this is the information from the European Commission, but the Green Deal is an answer to the climate change and environmental degradation that we have, and which is a great threat to Europe and the world as such. The Green Deal has been put forward to overcome these challenges. And so the Green Deal is basically a new growth strategy for Europe. And it is to transform the European Union into a modern and resource-efficient and competitive economy. For example, then, with no net emissions of greenhouse gases by 2050, and also decouple economic growth from resource use. And also a very important aspect here is that no person or place should be left behind. So the European Green Deal is the plan to make the EU's economy sustainable. So I think this is at the heart of many of us, and I think it's an excellent opportunity and also an excellent, let's say, ambition that is here put forward that we need to do a lot of work in. Next slide, please. There's a lot of actions in this action plan that the Green Deal is, and also it's to boost the efficient use of resources and also move to a clean and circular economy. And it's not just climate change, it's a broad aspect of sustainability issues. So you also have the restoration of biodiversity and also to cut pollution, both to air, water, and soil. And also the plan outlines the investment needs and also the financing tools. So the innovation fund that was mentioned earlier by Sebastian is one tool that will be used to realize the Green Deal. And also, you've heard about this ambitions to also end the climate law and that is proposed, which is also under the Green Deal, let's say, umbrella. Thank you. And it's basically, there is actions within all sectors. And you will have, these are some of the highlighted actions, that is investing in environmentally friendly technologies, supporting industry to innovate, rolling out cleaner, cheaper and healthier forms of private and public transport, decarbonization of the energy section, ensuring buildings are more energy efficient, and then also working with the international partners to improve the global standards. So basically, it's action. It will be the Green Deal will be important for all sectors of society. Next, please. You have probably heard about the Green Deal call, and that's the title of this speech, but there is the first call in the Green Deal is already out since September. And the main, let's say, reasoning with this call is to mobilize the resources and innovation to foster a just and sustainable societal transition, and also leaving no one behind. And it's also the aim is that the project should deliver tangible and viable results rather quickly also. And the call as it is will support pilot applications, demonstration projects, innovative products, and also innovation for better governance of the green and digital transition, and also the social and value chain innovation. Also, in addition to technologies and demonstration, the call encourages to experiment and also with social innovations for new ways to engage also society, and also empower the citizens to really have them on board in this transition. Yeah, and also there also in relation to the pandemic that we are in now, the call will also contribute to the digital, the green and digital recovery. So this is the first call, and it's the last call in Horizon 2020, but there will be more calls going forward. So we can take the next slide. The timeline for the call, first call, is it has been out for let's say public consultation. Right now the call, and there's a lot of work ongoing, of course, in consortia and in different ways to find the partners to work with. But in the end of January, the deadline is. So it's quite a fast process, I would say. Next, please. There are 10 different areas. Sorry if this text is a bit small. You can find everything on the European Commission webpage, but the total budget is 1 billion euros. And as I said earlier, it shall implement the results from earlier Horizon 2020 projects with immediate impacts expected. And then if you look, this is 1 billion euro in this call, but also it has been mentioned that the next framework program, which is Horizon Europe, 37% of those funds will be towards the Green Deal area. And then upon that, there will be additional 20% then for digitalization. So digital and green is really the headline going forward. Next, please.
We're starting. Oh, perfect. Sorry.
Yes, it's the final words. So I would say that the Green Deal represents a great challenge, but even greater opportunities. And especially it was mentioned by Alan before as well, but the cities has really a key role to play in fulfilling the targets of the Green Deal. Also with more people moving into cities and large proportion of the energy usage, for example, in cities. And also cooperation is always and has been the key, but it's even more important, and that we also learn from each other on different level how to move forward in a faster pace than perhaps we are today. So that is my final words. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Patrick. I have one question, because we're talking about coming more calls in a new period. Because this one is, if you compare it to a lot of it's focused very much on the end of the innovation project. You have to kind of show that this is going to be an innovation or a service. And then, do you think the rest of the calls under the Green Deal will be as concrete, or is it going to be more the beginning of the stage as well?
Yeah, it will be a crystal ball answer, I guess, but it's my hope is that you will as the Green Deal is today, and the areas in the call, it's not covering everything that we need to work on. So it's I would recommend to step back and also look at the wider perspective. What kind of areas do we need? And there, but we are very short in time, so we need a lot of, let's say, reduction in the real market. But we also need to do a lot of focused research and also do, let's say, there was someone mentioning in the Research and Innovation Days by the European Commission that we need to trim the systemic approaches that we do. We need even more improved systemic research and really the systems level. How do we work with that, and also integrating sectors, for example, the energy sector and the transport sector and the buildings and everything. How do we make a, let's say, systems approach? So yeah, I would say there's a lot to do also on the research level, of course, and testing and demo, and yeah. But as it is now, it's quite late in the TRL scale, if you speak in that terms. Yeah.
So more of both, maybe in the
I would say so.
future. You see the question, which reads: is international consortia needed in the Green Deal call? In this, the Green Deal call.
Yes, it's also depending on which area, how let's say important it is in the different contexts. And there is one that is on international cooperation as well, so that's obvious. But I would say in Europe we need to work more together. So it's of course very much the way going forward.
Thank you. We'll continue with our last speaker, Gabriele Pesce. I will let you pronounce your name correctly once again. Please, Gabriele.
Yes, good morning. You pronounce my name very well. Thank you. So yeah, good morning. My name is Gabriele Pesce. I work for Euroheat and Power, the International Association for District Heating and Cooling. Let me share my presentation. Just a second.
We could, yeah, sorry.
Okay, I think you can. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. The objective of my presentation of today is to show you from the perspective of an industrial association how we fill the gap of funding between our members and the EU funds. And I hope that could be an interesting source of inspiration for public authorities, because let's say, how will I show you, cities can have a very important role in fostering the innovation in a particular energy sector, namely in the district heating and cooling sector. In particular, I would like to introduce to you the district heating and cooling plus strategy technology platform. DSC Plus technology platform is the platform set up under the umbrella of Euroheat and Power, with the aim to foster innovation and research through the district heating and cooling sector. In particular, we act in several, let's say, area of action. We support our member through a research and business network support, through education and training activities, through advocacy and communication, through a very interesting knowledge hub, and of course, the aim of today's presentation, through EU projects that have a very cross-cutting role in this sense. At the moment, we are currently in 8 projects. Most of them are Horizon 2020 project, fostering innovation and research in the district heating and cooling. Of course, we are part of the Celsius, that it's not part of Horizon 2020, it's a tender. And each of these projects has a role in the overall strategy of our mission. And in many of these projects, cities have a very important role. For example, I would like just to mention CoolDH. It's a very innovative project about ultra-low temperature, where the Lund municipalities and the Øye Task Group, a suburb in Copenhagen, they are an official partner in the project, and they have an active role in, I would say, testing the innovation in the municipal network. Then, for example, we have Reuse It, where we try to financially upscale the use of waste heat, where cities have, let's say, the role of offering demo site and testing site for the innovation. I won't go into detail of all the project, but just to show you how the innovation in our sector needs cities and public authority. In general, I would say the funding and the situation in general, it's very positive for our sector. Just in 2019, plus that more than 8 new projects in the district heating and cooling sector kicked off, for almost 40 million euro of total grants. And we're proud to say that quite all the projects involve at least one of our members. Our members, of course, represent academia, research center. We don't have cities in our, I would say, membership database, but we strongly collaborate with them, in quite all projects.
So can you still hear Gabriele, or is it only me having problems? So let's give it one more second to see if Gabriele will connect back. I think we might have lost him. So in the meantime, then maybe I will go back to the question, maybe to Sebastian. Is that fine with you, Sebastian?
Yeah, sure.
Perfect. Because I thought it was an interesting question about the risk and the cost control about the project. And I mean, the 40% would then be a kind of, a big investment or a risk for cities and so on. So how would you respond to this question?
Yeah, well, first of all, I didn't want to dodge the question. I just got disconnected. So I'm sorry.
We know, no problem.
No, of course there is a risk, but this is the whole idea of the Innovation Fund. So if we want to push technologies that are today not mature enough, but that we are needing in order to reach the climate goals, somebody has to take the risk. And we heard before from the Smart Cities Marketplace, yes, there is a willingness of private investors to take some risk, but not all of them on their own side. So this is the answer of the European Union to try to push some of these really needed projects, which are of high risk nature, with taxpayers' money. And that is a conscious decision. And I mean, if it's a good or a bad decision, I think the future will show, depending on how well the projects are executed and how the results will look at. But I do think we need to have these kind of mechanisms also to make the private sector engaging in investments of these kind of solutions. So the idea from the Commission is to put up some financing, but the project promoter still has to secure a lot of financing for the project, be it with own funding, be it with other project funding, or be it with private investors. And there are safeguards. So it's not that they are just throwing money towards any crazy idea that you will have. You do need to demonstrate that there is a level of maturity in the technology, in the business plan, and in the way that you're going to execute this project. So there are safeguards in there. But yes, it is a risk investment, and that is the purpose.
Okay, thank you. And then, Gabriele, I'm really sorry. I wasn't sure that you would come back so quickly, so we continued with the question.
No.
When Sebastian was kicked out, it seems to be the topic of the day, being kicked out. So welcome back,
Okay.
and thank you, Sebastian, for your answer. And then we'll go back to your presentation.
Yeah, I don't know how far did you hear me?
I think until you were kicked out. I don't know where you were.
Yeah,
let's see where you were. We at this slide.
Yeah, wait, I'm sharing. Okay, so can you? Okay, can you see my presentation now?
Yes, we do.
Okay, great. So I will rush that. I would like just to present the work we do with our members. So I hope that could be a nice inspiration for you. In general, we support our member through partner searching, consortium building, networking, and dissemination and communication activity, and demo site search. In this case, for example, I think cities can have an active role in offering demo site for our innovation in district heating and cooling activities. We have a consolidated matchmaking process. We organize it at each round of very, I would say, important financing round. For example, on Horizon 2020, regular call for proposal. We divided this matchmaking process in phases. A preliminary phase, we try to reach out our members and assess the interest, and we organize a first virtual meeting. Then we collect what I would say is more city marketplace called the project concept. So we try to gather as many as possible ideas around which we can build an interesting consortium. We then pass to the third step, it's called the active consolidation. Where we actively try to making this matchmaking on the base of the interest of our members, and then we follow up I would say this matchmaking process, because of course we are not, as DSC Plus and Eurate Power, we are not always partner in project. We I would say support our members independently of our, I would say, participation in these initiatives. We regularly provide our members with a monitoring service of the existing and maybe upcoming funding opportunities, not just I would say Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe, but also other program like LIFE or national based funding programs. At the moment, we are focusing on the Green Deal call, and in particular on these let's say GD 2.1, innovative land-based and offshore renewable energy technologies. Subtopic subtopic 1 on district heating, cooling, and CHP. The budget is around 80 million. The proposal size around 3 and 6 million. And to ensure a balanced portfolio, the Commission is going to finance at least one project focusing on district heating and cooling and one project focusing on CHP. One interesting, I would say, aspect of this subtopic in the Green Deal call is the very low TRL, because the proposal should bring the innovation 2, 4, and 5. So it's a very low TRL. That doesn't mean that we don't need demo sites. So if you have interesting demo sites where we can test very, very disruptive technology and innovation and ideas in the field of district heating and cooling, we could be, I would say, very interested in this. The future is, I would say, even more positive for the district heating and cooling sector, and of course, indirectly for public authorities having a district heating network in the cities. On the side of research, Horizon Europe, also LIFE, where a lot of coordination and support protection will shift into. The Innovation Fund that was presented today, and of course, a series of other funding programs such as the Modernization Fund, the indirect fund like the Cohesion Fund, and all the, I would say, panorama of the alternative financing scheme of, I would say, the financing scheme leveraging private investments such as the EIB financial instrument, InvestEU, and the JTM, the Just Transition Mechanism. So, just to conclude, and sorry for the technical issues, I would like to underline that the collaboration for the district heating and cooling sector with public authorities is crucial. Our vision is quite clear. There's no energy transition without sustainable cities, and no sustainable cities without sustainable heating and cooling. And of course, there's no sustainable heating and cooling without district energy. So I hope that I give you, despite the technical problem, a nice overview of the work we carry on and the potential opportunities that also cities can have in our sector, the district heating and cooling. So thank you for listening to me, and yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Gabriele. So if I understood, your members are innovation actors then in the different cities, for example. It's not the cities themselves, there are members.
Exactly.
So what would be your best advice to the people working with city councils in different ways? How can they best help these innovation actors?
I would say the main role that cities and public authority can have in these kind of projects are several. On one side, I would say the demo site offering is one of the most common, say, role that city can have, offering a section, say, of the district heating and cooling network to test the innovation. And of course, it's a win-win situation where the innovators can test the idea and concept, and on the other side, cities can be supported in the energy transition, so in the decarbonization path they have to follow. On the other side, let's say cities can have a role in this project through innovation, not just, I would say, technical innovation, but also in innovative way to empower citizens, consumers, and also their own, I would say, public officer in design and concept new sustainable plans and, I would say, decarbonization path for the future.
Thank you. I think I will ask the rest of the speakers also to put on their videos, so we can have some questions either for one of the speakers or for all of you. You're welcome to write your questions in the question and answer or in the chat as you wish. I will pick up on what you said there, Gabriele, and for a question a question to you, Alan, about the citizens' engagement, which is one of the key issues in the mission. Are you there, Alan?
Yes, I am.
Ah, perfect. So you talk about the citizen have to be one of the driving forces in this mission to make the change happen. And I also know that you have a long experience in this yourself from Hammarby. Do you have some good best practice that you could share with the cities here today about how to engage citizens and how to make this citizens more engaged in the process of changing into the more climate neutral city?
I think about people who are living in housing associations. They are not experts on running energy systems. So they have to have the help to do that. But they are the decision makers. It is not the city hall and the mayor or the mayor's staff that makes decision on this. This is done by people who are not experts on energy systems. And there's a great deal of room for climate action. You can reduce the use of energy, you can switch to renewable energy, and so on. And that has to be done by people in the housing associations. And therefore, I think you have to involve, for example, in Sweden, 20% of all housing are organized by housing associations. So it's a huge potential. And someone has to take the lead in that. We have worked locally in my hometown district, Hammarby Sjöstad, to do this. We have created a citizen-based organization working with the housing associations, about 50 now, and we have made a very good result. So I know that there's a potential in doing this, but you have to do it in another way. If we had been waiting for City of Stockholm to act here, 90% of what we had done had never happened. So there's a huge potential for mobilizing people.
Great. Then I will read one question we have received, which read, can one join Euroheat and Power's matchmaking if one is a member of the Renewable Heating and Cooling ETIP, but not a member of Euroheat and Power? It's a concrete question.
Yeah, let's say the most straightforward answer is no, because the matchmaking process is dedicated just to our member. But of course, indirectly, yes, in the sense that in general, when we get the the needs of our members looking for specific demo site or specific expertise and profile, we also look outside our network, and in general we look at the nearest network in which we are. So like the ETIP could be one of the source of external profile and stakeholder that we could reach out to help our members. So yeah, I don't know if I was clear. It's a little.
And then I have a question, because I think we have looked at different instruments today. In a lot of them, they are maybe not the cities themselves, but innovator actors. They're going to be in the leading role. So what's the different instruments you have talked about? How can a city then promote and help maybe to their innovators actors to take part in these programs or to be more aware about the possibilities out there? The floor is open.
Patrick, I'm making a comment there. I think it's the cities. It's a perfect testing ground. So providing concrete examples where you can implement the future in the different city aspects is very interesting. Whether it's heating, cooling, transport, any of the areas that I talked about in the Green Deal. So I think that's creating and making those spaces available for innovation.
Can I mention one thing, and that is, as I showed in the climate contract, there will be support from national level. And I showed 3 boxes. One was about more innovation. So what can we do? I think that the most important thing is to give a perspective of what is possible during the next 10 years. So we call it, for example, Mobility 2030. We're working with another strategic innovation program, Drive Sweden. We're working with Fossil Free Sweden and the Build Sweden, who are experts in this field. So we ask them to put together a vision of what can be done until 2030, so that cities can use this for their own planning. Then the next step is to translate that vision into something that is more concrete for a city. Because, for example, Växjö is different from Stockholm, and therefore we have to adjust this. But this is an important way of providing support for citizens so they can understand the potential of the innovation already done or those coming into the market in the next 5-10 years.
Sebastian, I think you wanted to answer as well.
I think there is a clear role for cities to play here, and a little bit a new role. And to be able to take on that role, I think it's very important to look at the silos that we have within the city administrations and break them down. Because you cannot have an environmental department that doesn't talk to the business development department anymore. You need to be able to push these goals that we have when it comes to climate change across the whole city administration. And then you can engage your private companies that have innovative solutions, or if you have a science park that you run together with your university, get them to be intermediaries and push these kind of funding instruments in order to make a difference and thereby contributing to the city goals. So it doesn't have to be the city itself that stands as the partner of the project, but the city can be the driver to engage with their own utilities, their own companies, but also with the private sector in order to use all of these different instruments that are out there towards one goal, which is the 2050 goals that we have.
Indeed. Thank you all of you very much for taking part. We have to finish off, unfortunately. I think we can say as found there is a lot of possibilities. There is a lot of funding. We just have to go and grab, but also I think it's very important to say that there are a lot of good matchmaking possibilities. So you also can find partners and find finance. So I think that's the lesson learned. There is a lot of help to be. You just have to really look for it. And as Sebastian said, and we have to make this change until 2050. So all together, we will make this happen. Thank you very much for taking part today. It was thank you for your interventions and also for all the questions from the audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you.